Welcome to Chapter 9, Security Management Practices, the second of this Week 2 presentations. In the learning objectives, you'll note that upon completion, we'll list key elements, we'll describe the components, we'll identify strategies, and we'll discuss trends in certification and accreditation. Security practices. The development and use of sound and repeatable information security management practices brings organizations closer to meeting this objective. Using this method, which is called benchmarking or external benchmarking, you compare your organization's efforts to those of organizations you feel are similar in size, structure, or industry. In information security, two categories of benchmarks are used: standards of due care and due diligence, or recommended practices or best security practices. Due diligence requires that an organization ensure that the implemented standards continue to provide the required level of protection. Companies with best practices may not be the best in every area. They may only have established a high quality or successful security effort in one area. For other organizations, government and industry guidelines can serve as excellent sources of information about what is required to control InfoSec risks. When selecting a recommended practice, the following is a list of questions to consider in order to make an educated choice. An alternative to this direct dialogue is the publication of lessons learned in security journals. Organizations that offer services or products in the same market may differ dramatically in size, composition, management philosophy, organizational culture, technological infrastructure, and planned expenditures for security. In InfoSec, baseline measurements of security activities and events are used to provide a basis for comparison of the organization's current security performance against future performance. The Gartner Group offers 12 questions as self-assessment. They're grouped in three areas: people, processes, and technology. They are: do you perform background checks on all employees with access to sensitive data, areas, and access points? Would the average employee recognize a security issue? Would they choose to report it? Would they know how to report it to the right people? Think of your SATA program. Under processes, it asks, are enterprise security policies updated at least on an annual basis? Employees educated on changes and constantly enforced? Does your enterprise follow a patch update management and evaluation process to prioritize and mediate new security vulnerabilities? Are the user accounts of former employees immediately removed or on termination? Are security group representatives involved in all stages of project lifecycle for new projects? And in technology, they ask, is every possible route to the internet protected by a properly configured firewall? Is sensitive data on laptops and remote systems encrypted? Are your information assets and the systems they use regularly assessed for security exposures using a vulnerability analysis methodology? And are systems and networks regularly reviewed for malicious software and telltale signs from prior attacks? If your company deals with the payment card industry data security standard, or basically processing credit card purchases, there's 12 recommended practices grouped into 6 areas. In Area 1, to build and maintain a secure network and system, you need to ensure that you're installing and maintaining a firewall configuration to protect cardholder data, and not to use vendor-supplied defaults for the system passwords and parameters. That may sound like common sense, but many times we forget to make those changes. In Area 2, to protect the cardholder data, you need to ensure that you protect stored cardholder data and encrypt transmissions of their data across open public networks. Area 3, to maintain a vulnerability management program, you should be protecting all systems against malware and regularly update antivirus software or programs. Also develop and maintain secure systems and applications. In Area 4, implementing strong access control measures, you should restrict access to cardholder data by a business's need to know. Do you remember earlier that in Chapter 7 we talked about access controls? Here's a place we would implement it. Identify and authenticate access to system components, and restrict physical access to cardholder data. Area 5, to regularly monitor and test the network, we should track and monitor all access to network resources and cardholder data, and regularly test security systems and processes. In Area 6, to maintain an information security policy, simply maintain a policy that addresses information security for all personnel, to include your cardholders. Performance measurement and InfoSec management. Measuring performance requires the design and ongoing use of an InfoSec performance management program based on effective performance metrics. Information security performance management is the process of designing, implementing, and managing the use of collected data elements called measures or metrics to determine the effectiveness of the overall security program. Organizations use three types of measurements. Those that determine the effectiveness of the execution of the InfoSec policy, like an ISSP. Those that determine the effectiveness and/or efficiency of the delivery of information security services, and those that assess the impact of an incident or other security event on the organization or its mission. According to NIST SP 800 TAC 55 Revision 1, the following factors shown must be considered during development and implementation of an information security performance management program. Also, according to the same manual, 4 factors are critical to the success of an information security performance program. As always, strong upper-level management support is required. Practical InfoSec policies and procedures are needed. Quantifiable performance measurements are needed, and results-oriented measurement analysis. In some organizations, the terms metrics and measures are interchangeable. In others, metrics is a term for more granular, detailed measurements, while the term measurements is used for an aggregate, higher-level result. Before beginning the process of designing, you should be prepared to answer the questions below. One of the most popular among many references that support the development of a process improvement and performance measures is the Capability Maturity Model Integrated, or CMMI, from the CMMI Institute at Carnegie Mellon. The process, identified from NIST SP 855 Rep 1, is divided into 2 major activities: identification and definition of the current InfoSec program, and development and selection of specific measures to gauge the implementation, effectiveness, efficiency, and impact of security controls. Collecting measurements about project activities may be even more challenging, as the organization needs some mechanism to link the outcome of each project in terms of loss control or risk reduction to the resources consumed. Designing the collection process requires thoughtful consideration of the intent of the metric, along with a thorough knowledge of how production services are delivered. What is important is that the measurements are specifically tied to individual InfoSec goals and objectives. Measurement, prioritization, and selection. This can be achieved with a simple low, medium, or high priority ranking system, or a weighted scale approach, which would involve assigning values to each measure based on its importance in the overall information security program and on the overall risk mitigation goals and the criticality of the system. Establishing performance targets. Other types of performance measures, such as those used to determine relative effectiveness or efficiency or impact of information security on the organization goal, tend to be more subjective and require solid native and subjective reasoning. For the most part, it is insufficient to simply collect these measures once. Here you see the 6 phases of NIST InfoSec Performance and Measurement implementation. A visual representation implementing the InfoSec measurement program. The CISO must also consider to whom the results of the performance measures program should be disseminated, and how should they be delivered. Here's a visual representation of a security dashboard. Trends in certification and accreditation. Certification and accreditation also challenges managers and technical staff to find the best methods to assure security given the technical constraints, operational constraints, and mission requirements. Organizations pursue accreditation or certification to gain a competitive advantage or to provide assurance or confidence to the customers. In 2009, the fundamental approach to certification and accreditation changed. The focus moved from a formal certification and accreditation activity to a risk management lifecycle approach or risk management framework. The revised process emphasizes 3 key elements: building InfoSec capabilities into federal information systems through the application of state-of-the-practice management, operational, and technical security controls, maintaining awareness of security state of information systems on an ongoing basis through enhanced monitoring processes, and providing essential information to the senior leaders to facilitate decisions regarding the acceptance of risk to organizational operations and assets, individuals, and other organizations, or the nation arising from operation and use of information systems. Here is displayed the NIST SP 800 TAC 37 Rev 1 pyramid, showing each tier of the process. The RMF steps include categorize the information system and the information being processed, selecting an initial set of baseline security controls, and implementing the security controls to describe how the controls are employed within the information system and its environment. Also assessing the security controls using appropriate assessment procedures, authorize information system operation based on the risk, and monitoring the security controls in the information system on an ongoing basis. Risk management framework life cycle is shown in this illustration. Certification and accreditation are not a permanent. You don't get it once and then rely upon that forever. Because the information technology changes, the certification accreditation document is living and updated by your system administrators and through you as a CISO to ensure that it's current and all security controls are being applied. As it says here, they're typically reviewed every 3 to 5 years for recertification. In summary, note the definition of benchmarking and that there's 2 categories of benchmarks as we discussed. Also note the three types of InfoSec performance measurements: those that determine effectiveness of the execution of the InfoSec policy, those that determine the effectiveness and/or efficiency of the delivery of InfoSec services, and those that assess the impact of an incident or other security event on the organization or its mission. Note that certification accreditation has evolved recently in 2009 to the Risk Management Framework 6-step approach. Thank you for viewing this presentation, and with your newfound knowledge, please go forward and complete your discussion posts and other requirements for this week.